to buy low-quality poison that's manufactured in Mexico or grown in Mexico, why not take the profit out of it and make it cheap as rat poison? The same thing happened during Prohibition for alcohol. That alcohol was charged at a premium, it was illegal, it was very expensive. Once it became legalized, they put a whopping tax on it, which we could do on any drugs you chose to legalize, and generate a revenue stream. But no, we're not smart enough to do that. The powers that be want to keep drugs illegal because there's so much money in there for them.
And the other thing is we have more people in prison right now in this country than any other communist country in the world, any other country in the world. More of our own population in prison right now.
And for what? Because they choose to imbibe in things that probably aren't good for them, but hey, it's their business. If we're going to deceive ourselves and continue to believe that we are truly a free society, then we need to reform these drug laws and do so right away. Because under these drug laws, we're not a free society. We're shredding our freedoms here.
That's right. You just caught the whole essence of the books that I wrote 40 years ago. It's
well, the question that needs to be asked is, how do we bring about meaningful change? How do we change this system? How do we do it in a way that does not destroy our country, that supports our Constitution, and that brings these evildoers that are in our government to justice? Because that's what needs to happen. This whole 9/11 thing, there's never been an investigation. We've had the largest mass murder in the history of mankind. Over 3,000 people were murdered that day. And we still do not have a murder investigation. We have not had an arson investigation. There has been no criminal investigation of this in any way, shape, or form since 9/11 happened. And again, it goes back to the question. Our government it has not lost its legitimacy. So we as the people are morally obligated, we are duty-bound to do something about this and change this situation. Because if they're not going to follow the rules, we don't have to listen to them.
We've got the Tea Parties, which started out to be a pretty good movement, but then you've got people like Sarah Palin that's getting up and talking to the Tea Parties about going over and bombing Iran.
Well, who died and put Sarah Palin in charge of the Tea Party? I mean, it's like a parade was going down the street, and Palin comes out of the crowd and runs in front of it and pretends like she's leading it. I don't know where she appointed herself to head this thing.
But they kicked me out of the NAACP, listed me and Larry Pratt from Gun Owners of America, by the way.
Larry's another good guy who I can't say enough good stuff about. When I was running for governor, he actually supported me, and he and I sat down in his office in Virginia there, and he asked me what the best weapon for home defense was, and I said, well, everybody knows that's a double-barrel shotgun with a short barrel.
Now, I think, Mike, now we're pretty near each other. You're up in Phoenix, right?
Well, right now I'm in Oregon, to tell the truth. I decided to spend the summer up here in Oregon because, you know what? It's stinking hot in Arizona in the summertime, and so I bought myself a fifth-wheel travel trailer, and I hooked it up, and I went up. I was spending the summer on the Oregon coast.
Cool. Bring it back down here, parking next to mine.
Okay.
But I think we've got an opportunity here, working with the sheriff. I mean, now, the same thing is happening to you and Gordon Duff, who was just on my show and did a great show. Now you're being attacked by the same people that attacked me for starting the militias. The ADL, Southern Poverty Law, are starting to target veterans today, trying to make you out to be a racist for talking about this.
Well, let's talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center for a minute. That's another good topic you brought up there. Because the Southern Poverty Law Center is a 501c3 charitable corporation. And they survive off donations that people can give to them in order to advance their agenda. But when did the SPLC become the official advisor to Homeland Security and to the and identifying who their terrorist targets are?
Well, they started with me 10 years ago when they listed me in the FBI's Guide to Right-Wing Extremists. put out by Southern Poverty Law.
Now, let's clarify some things here. Let's do this on the air so that it's public record.
Okay.
I'm not a right-wing extremist. I love our country. I really do. I think we have a highly dysfunctional government right now. And I think our government is not operating within its constitutional mandate.
I agree.
So how do we fix this? I don't want to burn down anything. I don't hate any other racial groups. I want our government to function the way it's supposed to function. And it's not. It's broken. So how do we fix it? Now, if that makes me a radical right-winger, then I don't know how not to be a radical right-winger. It's a confusion for me. But how did the SPLC, who lives off charitable contributions allegedly, become the official advisor to Homeland Security and law as to who is a radical right-winger, or who's a racist, or who isn't? How did that occur?
Because they were paid and started about the same time that the Federal Reserve was started. Our founding fathers warned us, if you ever allow a private bank to issue your money, the banks and the corporations that spring up around them will leave your children homeless in the land we conquered.
The SPLC, according to their website, was incorporated in 1971.
Okay.
So that was during the Nixon administration.
Okay.
And that's when they were incorporated. So they don't go as far back as the Federal Reserve.
But the ADL does. ADL does.
But you know, these things are where our own government fails in its primary duties, its constitutionally mandated duties. Our own government fails at doing what it's constitutionally supposed to do, and that is the Congress has the responsibility for the coining of the currency, not the Federal Reserve. That is blatantly an unconstitutional act, and it needs to be repealed. And I'll tell you what, the debt that the Federal Reserve has issued needs to be repudiated. It needs, because it's fraudulent debt. There was never any value there. They create debt by a few strokes on the keyboard, and the American people, the American public, ends up paying for it, unjustifiably so. If we would throw off the shackles of the Federal Reserve debt that we have out there, our country would be prosperous again.
Mike, we've tried that. I've got a $5 bill in my pocket that's worth $10,000. It was issued in 1963. It says United States note.
Well, I've got a $2 bill that is a Treasury note as well. That was issued sometime in the past. It says U.S. Treasury note. It has a different color to it, and it sure is prettier than those cheap-ass Federal Reserve notes they hand out. But let's talk about something else here. Let's go back to the economy, and I want to give a little bit of a history lesson for people.
Okay.
If people remember during the 1992 election cycle, when George Bush was running against Bill Clinton, there was this third-party candidate out there named Ross Perot. And Ross Perot said, you know, this NAFTA treaty we have coming, if you sign that NAFTA treaty, that giant sucking sound you hear is going to be U.S. jobs leaving the country. And you know what? Ross Perot was spot on. He was correct. Because when Clinton was in office, he not only signed NAFTA, but he signed something called the GATT Treaty, which is the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, and he let China into the World Trade Organization. So Clinton did three things that have cost probably 20 million U.S. manufacturing jobs that no longer exist in this country.
Not to mention murdering almost 100 people and 17 little children at Waco.
Well, but we're talking about jobs now.
Okay.
But you know, our U.S. economy is currently flat on its back. Like I said, we've got, they say it's 9.1%. It's closer to 23% unemployment. How do we fix this? How do we undo the damage that has been done by Clinton? Obama didn't create this problem. He's right. He did inherit it. But he didn't inherit it from Bush. He inherited it from his predecessor on the Democrat side, Bill Clinton. And so one way we could potentially address this problem is that if it's not made in the USA, when it comes into the country, we put a 40% tariff on it, a tax.
That's the legitimate source of income for the U.S. government.
Yes, sir. And what we do with that money is we use that money to abolish the IRS, and we use that to fund our government. So next time you go to Walmart and you want to buy some cheap plastic Chinese junk, you can go buy cheap plastic Chinese junk. But I don't care whose brand name is on it, whether it's Apple or IBM or General Electric. If they hit in the USA, they pay a 40% tariff on it. And that would do so much to bring these manufacturing jobs back to this country. Let me remind you, in Phoenix, Arizona, Motorola was the largest employer in the state in 1999. In 1997, when Clinton signed that bill, Motorola began making plans to divest themselves. Motorola formerly had 27,000 employees in Maricopa County, in Arizona, that paid an average wage of $60,000 per year. Today, Motorola employs fewer than 500 people in this valley. And if you'd have told me back then that Motorola would have pulled out by 1999, I wouldn't have believed it. There's no way. They've got too many people, too many factories. There's no way they could ever move all this. But you know what? They did. And all those jobs are in China now. None of them are here in Arizona. We have lost one of the greatest economic engines that any state could ever be blessed with. And we lost it because Bill Clinton let China into the WTO, signed GATT and signed GATT and NAFTA. And that is a tragedy for the American public and the working people of this country.
Mike, I tried to tell people that with Free American Magazine back when it happened.
Well, I voted for Ross Perot, so I did my part on it. And, you know, Bush lost and we got Clinton. But, you know, like we talked about earlier, what do you do when you don't have good choices? Who do you vote for? And how do you make this process work when the process itself is broken? And that's something that escapes me.
I've been asking I've been reporting on the takeover of the whole New World Order since George Bush announced it on national TV. And, you know, I wanted to do something. The only answer that I can come up with, and you've touched on all of the subject material here, if we went back to the foundation of every civilization, which is the self-sufficient family farm, and we work together in village situations to grow our own food and generate our own energy, build our own solar panels, build our own windmills, and set up homes the same way we did back in the turn of the century, when we spread out across this.
You brought up another really good point here, and this ties back into the illegal immigration problem we've got with the illegal aliens coming up here. Well, what people don't realize what happened in Mexico when they signed that NAFTA treaty as well, all their small farms were wiped out. All of them. I mean, people who lived on that land for, you know, 20, 30, 100 generations lost their ability to make a living off that land because the big U.S. agro producers moved into Mexico and took over and displaced these people to where they couldn't sell anything competitively anymore. And so they were thrown into abject poverty. If it could get any worse, it got worse. And so that's why we have so many of them jumping across the border and sneaking up here.
Right. And our farmers and ranchers are telling me, the farmers and ranchers in Cochise County are telling me they can't get help. The teenagers don't want to work on the farm or the ranch anymore. They can't, you know, how are you going to get them back on the farm after they've seen L.A.?
Yeah, well, how are you going to do that?
Now, how do we do that? We've got the opportunity to do this. We got 3 days and a stage and a PA system, and we got 3 days to try to educate about 1,000 people. Maybe we can get more if it's put together right. In a rural county. Now we've got the, you know, I'm taking a page out of Obama's little playbook here. He says that the Executive Order 13575, the establishment of the White House Rural Council. He says 16% of the American population lives in rural counties. Strong, sustainable rural communities are essential to winning the future and ensuring American competitiveness in the years ahead. These communities supply our food, fiber, energy, safeguard our natural resources, and are essential in the development of science and innovation. The rural communities face numerous challenges. They also present enormous economic potential. And you know what? I agree with Obama up to that point. Up to that point. Because after that, he starts talking about how the federal government has an important role to play in order to expand access to the capital necessary for economic growth, promote innovation, improve access to public care, health care, and education, expand outdoor recreational activities, to enhance the federal government's efforts to address the needs of rural America. This order establishes a council to better coordinate federal programs and maximize the impact of federal investment. Can you say Agenda 21 fusion centers, federal control, corporate farms?
Yes, sir. That's what that reaches out to me. Anytime the federal government wants to help micromanage and social engineer policy affecting the American people, I get worried. I think if you just leave the American people alone, we'll find our own way. We don't need the help of the federal government. And
well,
if they just do what their constitutional mandate is and nothing else, we'll be in good shape.
We've still got the threat again. There's the illegals coming here, crossing the farmers and the ranchers' lands here. They're potentially a threat. It's an invasion in here. I mean, what is so hard for people to understand?
If you read my article, then you understand that we need to have a new foreign policy with Mexico.
Yes, sir.
Well, Mexico is a foreign government, and we need to treat them as a foreign government. They're a neighbor to the south, but they're still not us. They're a foreign power. And if you read the article, you realize that Reagan, in exchange for we had that first amnesty under Reagan, whenever he was supposed to approve 800,000 illegals who lived here. That's all it was only 800,000. It turned out to be 3.5 million, closer to 4 million people. So their estimates were grossly off on that. But Reagan did that in order to get the assets of the U.S. banks that had been nationalized in Mexico by Jose Lopez Portillo. And they nationalized the U.S. banks' assets down there during their economic crisis in 82, 83. And in exchange for getting those bank assets back, Reagan granted 3.5, 4 million illegal alien citizenship in the U.S. in exchange for money. Back to the banks again. So that's just how it works. But we can stop all this. We just have to develop a cogent strategy on what we, the people, are going to do and how we're going to do it, and yet stay within the confines of the law. And that's where it gets tricky.
Well, they're trying to make my plan calls from generating your own energy and growing your own food, and that could be done in a neighborhood. Just kick the neighborhood association out, put a garden in everybody's backyard and a wind generator on the roof, and you got a self-sufficient neighborhood.
Well, it's just maybe not fully self-sufficient, but certainly a lot more so than it is today. The whole drive since the 1980s has been to an interconnected global economy. That does not benefit the American people. You look at our balance of trade and how we're in the negative on that by, hundreds if not trillions of dollars on an annualized basis. We're shipping more money overseas than we have coming back in. Let me
interrupt right there for a second, because according to my information here, we are supplying 150 countries in the world with some type of foreign aid.
Why?
I don't know.
We have to borrow.
Actually, I do know. We are funding all of these governments that are working with the banksters to tax and control the people. Mm-hmm. This is all part, and all of the Mossad, the MI6, the CIA, and probably the FBI are all working for the banksters. And if you become a rebel, which is what they would consider you and I for standing up for the Constitution, and because our founding fathers fought the first New World Order of the day. The sun never sets on the English Empire. What's changed?
Well, you bring up a really good point again, and that is, I'm not a radical. I'm a populist. I want to see the greatest good for the American people, for my people. This is my country. I was born here. My father was born here. My family's lived in this country for at least 7 generations. And you know what? I want the best for our people here in this country. I don't care about what goes on the other corner of the world. Let them manage their own affairs. Let them meddle in their affairs. Let them be. And if they pose a threat to us, we'll fight that threat. But until then, let's leave them alone. Let's let them be.
I agree with that. I think the place that we can start, we have to start locally. You got to make a change with your neighbors. You got to make a change within your county, within your town, within your environment. And that's what I want to encourage in this event. It's going to be as a biker event. But, if people like you are speaking to the people out there, maybe we can use that as a forum to make people understand this ain't about being a race. This is about taking care of your family, your community, your town, and your state. Look, the federal government is attacking Arizona right now. Here's Mike Harris. He ran for governor to tell you that the federal government is attacking the people of this county.
Well, and let's go back to one of your earlier points, and that is we have our own Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, who is actively supplying military-grade weapons and ammunition to the Mexican drug cartels. What is wrong with this picture? I mean, they're doing the exact same thing with the drug cartels in Mexico that they did in El Salvador with the Contras down there, and they're using the same methodology, using the same approach of using drug profit to fund a revolution and terrorist activities within Mexico to topple the Mexican government. That's what's going on down there. And
right.
So we need a new foreign policy. We need to put U.S. troops not on the border. We need to put U.S. troops into Mexico to stop this right now. And
well, maybe that too could be part of their plan here. Justin Raimondo says that governments don't allow such large weapons shipments to pass over their borders to foreign customers without having some foreign policy objective in mind. When it comes to the empire builders in Washington, what other purpose could it be than the expansion of the imperial frontiers?
Well, that's a good point. And, you heard the conspiracy theories about the North American Union. I don't know if they're true. I don't know if they're not. But it frightens me. Because you know what? I'm a United States citizen. I'm proud of my U.S. citizenship here. I don't want to be part of the North American Union. That's not what I signed up for. And it's not, what they're doing is they're trying to modify the social contract that we were born with without our consent. Now, if they want to put this thing to a plebiscite and have the people of Canada, the U.S., and Mexico vote on this, then let it stand or fall on a fair plebiscite vote. But if we don't want that, if the people of these three nations don't want that, and we have the powers that be that are forcing this upon us, then that's another matter, and that's what I fear is happening.
I think you're dead on with what's happening, and Mike, I think it could get a lot worse. I mean, we mentioned Alexander Solzhenitsyn and the Gulag Archipelagos. You also mentioned the fact that 40 to 60 million white Russians were killed, murdered, starved to death. Millions of them starved to death.
Yep, that was a Holodomor in Ukraine, where they starved 20 million Ukrainians who had done nothing except want to work on their own land. So Stalin starved them, and he sent his goons down there to forcibly take the food from the people and starve them to death on their own land. You
mean kind of like what happened to Rawson Foods in California?
Something like that, yeah.
What makes people think it can't happen here? I think it's happening here. I think it's happening right now. I think the attack on people like me, like anybody that's speaking out, Donna Taylor is speaking out about the pharmaceutical companies, and they've grabbed her son Mark and drugged him again. And people that are speaking out been murdered. We've had people that were talking about the mortgages killed in Arkansas.
Well, Clay, since you brought up Solzhenitsyn again, let's remember what Solzhenitsyn said, and that is, when they pick you up, when you get that knock on the door at 2 a.m, and they're there to take you away just for a few routine questions, to a man, everyone that was in the gulag, everyone who was a prisoner, had wished they would have resisted. Instead of going along peacefully, they wished they would have resisted. Now, we've got 310 million people in this country. And if every one of those people resists and fights, and when the authorities come to pick that person up, if they physically resist and maybe sacrifice their life in the process, There's more of us than there are of them. They can't control us all.
Well, to me, this is the power, and this is exactly what's happened to the veterans. I mean, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution when I was 17 years old. There was no expiration date on that. And now they are trying to demonize and target the veterans. Now they're trying to target veterans today, you know, because, frankly, they're scared to death of us. That's why they sprayed us with Agent Orange in Vietnam. That's why we're handling depleted uranium ammo in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Well, you know, they don't want a free-thinking American electorate. They don't want people out there who can actually use their facilities of mind and make intelligent, informed decisions, which is why they feed us so much bullshit and lie to us and poison people. And like you said, the fluoride in the water, it goes down to the small things. Fluoride in the water it's a known carcinogen. If you pick up a packet of decon rat poison, the first ingredient on there is sodium fluoride. And that's the same stuff they put in your drinking water, and we drink it every damn day, and it makes us stupid and docile.
Yes.
And so, you know, people, you have to take responsibility for yourselves. If you have to buy distilled water from the grocery store, then buy it. But thank yourself, because you'll get your mind back. You'll be able to think again. And don't use fluoridated toothpaste either. So watch these things, because you can make a difference in how you think, how you behave by moderating your diet.
And you know, the other problem we got out there, Mike, besides the pharmaceutical companies, besides the military-industrial complex that our own presidents have warned us about, you know, we've got they don't call television programming for nothing, do they? We're really being programmed, and
programmed. Yeah,
every other commercial on there is for some type of legal drug that they got a 400,000% markup of.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So we're being drugged down the same way the Chinese were in the Boxer Revolution.
Well, that was the Opium Wars, and
yes.
that's which are still going on. You know,
yes.
that template for the Opium Wars and how to destroy a country is still going on. And right now, one of the bigger targets of that is are the Russians. There's a lot of that opium from Afghanistan is going into Russia, and they're destroying the next generation over there and creating their own generation of junkies. But these are crimes against humanity. These are things that must be stopped. And, you know, if we don't do it, who is? Who's going to stop us? Who's going to hold this government accountable and make them quit, if not the American people?
That's why I started the militias back in '94, Mike.
We deserve better.
And it's why I'm putting this event on. I would like you to speak at that event, and I'd like for you to help me organize it and promote it. I really.
Let me give a shout out to another group out there. There's a group out there called U.S. Border Guard. You can go to their website, usborderguard.com. But it's a civilian group made up of former veterans that go down and actually assist in patrolling the border. And they've been successful in seizing drugs. They've been successful in interdicting illegal aliens. But let's give them a shout out and give them credit where credit is due, because they've got the stones to get up off their living room sofa, turn off the TV, and go out there and sit out in the desert on a hot night and stop the problem that's coming across that border. But something has to be done.
I put me in touch with them. I'd like to have them on the show. I'd like to promote them any way I can. I'd like them to be a part of this event. We really got to reach out to the people here. I mean, because I feel the same way. I didn't do this to make money. I didn't start the magazines or the radio shows to get rich. I did it to inform the people and let people like you have an access. So thanks for being with me. And
well, Clay, I appreciate it, and you know, I look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
God bless.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.